Welcome to the Depth Dive. Ready to dive in? Today we're going on a journey through, some excerpts from Mystics at Heart One, the greatest minds in science and philosophy. It's, it's about how some of history's big-time scientific thinkers, the famous ones, incorporated some pretty mystical beliefs into their work.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting area. Like, we always think of science and mysticism as, like, totally different things, but these excerpts, they kind of show a different story.
It's definitely not what I was expecting when we started looking into this. So, before we jump into the thinkers themselves, could you maybe help define mysticism a bit more?
Oh, for sure. It's one of those terms that can be kind of hard to pin down. Basically, it's about believing in stuff like realities or truths that are beyond what we can see or, figure out just by thinking about it. Stuff like intuition, spiritual experiences, that kind of thing.
Okay, that definitely helps. So, keeping that in mind, let's get started. The excerpts begin with Pythagoras, who's most famous for that theorem we all probably struggled with at some point. But turns out he wasn't just a math guy.
Exactly. Most people only know him from the Pythagorean theorem, which, by the way, is still super important in geometry today.
Yeah.
But he was also really into the mystical power of numbers. He thought they were like the essence of everything. Like they had this spiritual meaning.
Wait, so he believed numbers were more than just like a way to measure stuff, that they had a deeper meaning.
Yeah, that's right. And that's how he came up with this idea of the harmony of the spheres. He believed that when like planets and stars moved around, they were making this like celestial music. And this music reflected like the mathematical order of the universe.
So he thought the universe was basically a giant symphony. That's pretty poetic for a mathematician. But did this mystical belief, did it actually, have any impact on his scientific work?
Totally. For Pythagoras, there wasn't a line between the mystical and the scientific. You know, his whole view of numbers as these fundamental things with spiritual meaning, it shaped everything for him.
Yeah.
It makes you think that, like, maybe that sense of wonder, that mystical curiosity was part of why he made such groundbreaking mathematical discoveries.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder if that openness to something, like beyond just logic, is what helped him see those patterns in relationships. Super fascinating. So moving on, the excerpts then go on to Rene Descartes, who's famous for that phrase, I think, therefore I am.
Oh yeah, Descartes. He was all about finding truths you couldn't deny, and his mystical beliefs actually kind of drove that quest. He thought the human mind was like a window into a deeper reality, like a realm of pure thought and like pure essence.
So he wasn't just trying to figure out how the world works, he was trying to understand, like, the nature of existence and consciousness itself. That's pretty heavy stuff.
It is. But Descartes wasn't just a philosopher, lost in thought. He did a lot in math and science, too. He came up with the Cartesian coordinate system, which was like the foundation for analytical geometry, and he made some big advancements in optics and physiology, too.
That's wild. He could take those big abstract ideas and translate them into real scientific achievements. So far, we have Pythagoras with his cosmic symphony and Descartes searching for ultimate truth through the power of thought. It's like their mystical beliefs, fueled their scientific curiosity.
Exactly. And here's where things get really interesting. The excerpts then go on to Francis Bacon, considered the father of the scientific method. The guy who was all about evidence and inductive reasoning.
Yeah, the foundation of modern science, basically. It seems like the total opposite of mysticism, right?
Right. You'd think so.
Yeah.
But Bacon actually believed science had almost a spiritual potential. He thought it could restore humanity to a state of Edenic knowledge, like what Adam and Eve had, before the fall.
Hold on, are you serious? So even though he was all about observation and experiments, he saw science as a way to, like, get back to a lost paradise.
Exactly. And this mystical idea actually drove his push to reform scientific practice. He saw his work, like in Novum Organum, as a way to pave the way towards this big vision of scientific enlightenment.
That's incredible. It's like he believed that by understanding the natural world through science, we could understand something deeper about ourselves and our place in the universe. It like adds this whole other layer to his legacy.
It does. It challenges the idea that scientific progress is just about, cold, hard facts. There's a real sense of purpose there, even a spiritual side, driving those early scientists.
Okay, so far we've got a celestial symphony, a search for truth, and a vision of a scientific Eden. What other surprises do these excerpts have for us?
Well, next up is someone everyone knows, Isaac Newton. His laws of motion and universal gravitation, they totally changed physics.
But I have a feeling there's more to the story, right?
You bet. Newton was a groundbreaking physicist, but he was also super into alchemy and biblical prophecy.
Wait, seriously, Newton, the guy who basically invented classical physics, was messing around with alchemy, like trying to turn lead into gold and all that?
Yeah. And it wasn't just a hobby for him. He spent a lot of time on these studies. He saw the universe as this divinely ordered system. He thought you could discover hidden knowledge through both science and uh, exploring those ancient mystical traditions.
So for Newton, both science and mystical exploration were ways to understand, like, the grand design of the universe.
Exactly. He didn't think they contradicted each other at all. He even thought his alchemical studies helped him understand gravity. It's a
Hmm.
totally different side of Newton than what we usually learn.
Wow, this is really changing how I think about the history of science. It's like this secret history, unfolding.
It is. And it's only going to get more interesting as we keep going, diving into these figures and their connections to mysticism.
I'm hooked. We've already covered so much, but there's still a lot more to explore. We'll take a quick break and then dive back into this world of science and mysticism. Okay, so we're back and ready to keep going with, this deep dive into the connections between science and mysticism. Before we took a break, we were talking about Newton and his, fascination with alchemy.
Yeah, Newton and alchemy. It really makes you think differently about how scientific thought developed. Like maybe being open to exploring like beyond the usual boundaries was a big part of the scientific
It
revolution.
really does make you think. Maybe we've lost something by separating science and mysticism so much these days. But let's move on to another giant in science, Albert Einstein. His theories of relativity are like mind-blowing, but I'm really curious about his mystical side.
Well, Einstein, he famously said he had a cosmic religious feeling, but he wasn't talking about like a specific religion or anything. It was more about like a deep awe and reverence for the mysteries of the universe.
So more like a deep appreciation for the beauty and wonder of the cosmos.
Right. Einstein believed that feeling of wonder was super important for scientific inquiry. He thought that without it, scientists become like just calculators.
Yeah.
They lose the passion and inspiration to really explore reality.
That makes sense. Like you need that spark of awe, that sense of mystery to fuel the drive to understand the universe. Did this cosmic religion actually like have any influence on his scientific work?
A lot of people think it did. Think about his theory of general relativity, which introduced this crazy concept of space-time curvature. It's such a like huge shift from classical physics, such a leap of imagination that some people say it required a mind that was like open to seeing the universe in unconventional ways.
So you're saying that Einstein's mystical leanings, they might have given him the freedom to think outside the box and imagine this totally new model of gravity?
Yeah. It's a super interesting possibility. Now, it's important to remember we can't like prove a direct link between Einstein's cosmic religion and his scientific discoveries, but it's a cool thing to think about, right?
Yeah, definitely. It seems like it's a pattern with these scientific pioneers, right? Like they were willing to embrace the unknown, to see the universe as more than just a machine with predictable laws.
That's a great point. And that brings us to Sir James Jeans, who was a brilliant physicist and astronomer. He's famous for saying the universe is more like a great thought than a great machine.
So instead of seeing the cosmos as this like cold clockwork thing, he saw it as something more like a mind or like an unfolding idea. What did he mean by that?
Well, Jeans was really influenced by stuff happening in quantum mechanics, which was like challenging the deterministic view of classical physics. He saw the universe as this dynamic, interconnected web of energy and information, kind of like a vast, evolving thought rather than a predictable machine.
That's such a huge change in perspective. Did this this mystical view, did it actually shape his scientific work at all?
For sure. Jeans made some big contributions to, how we understand star formation and the evolution of galaxies.
Mhm.
But he always approached those things with, with the sense of philosophical and spiritual inquiry. He saw the cosmos as a reflection of something deeper and more mysterious than we can really fully grasp.
It's amazing to think that these scientists who were making such groundbreaking discoveries, they were also like wrestling with these big, almost mystical questions. It makes them seem more human.
Right, and really emphasizes the idea that science and mysticism don't have to be mutually exclusive. In fact, they might actually make each other stronger and richer.
Okay, I have to ask about Werner Heisenberg. His uncertainty principle is like one of the most mind-blowing ideas in quantum mechanics. Did he also have like a mystical side?
He did. Heisenberg was super into philosophy and Eastern mysticism, especially the ideas of, interconnectedness and the observer's role in shaping reality.
So his scientific work and his mystical interests, they were like actually connected. How so?
Well, think about the uncertainty principle. It says that you can't know, like, both the position and momentum of a particle perfectly at the same time. What that means is, like, the act of observing something, it actually influences what you're observing.
So the observer is actually part of the experiment. It's like we're not just, you know, detached observers. We're actually taking part in how the universe unfolds.
Exactly, and that really resonated with Heisenberg's mystical beliefs. He saw the universe as this participatory dance,
Yeah.
where the subject and object, the observer and the observed, they were like totally intertwined.
Wow, that's so different from the traditional scientific view of a detached, objective observer. It makes like the whole idea of science seem a lot more mysterious and, well, mystical.
It does.
Yeah.
Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about J.B. Rhine. He's known for his work in parapsychology, which, you know, some people might think is on the fringes of science.
Yeah, that's the study of stuff like ESP and psychokinesis, right?
Yeah,
It definitely seems like outside of the mainstream.
it does. But Rhine's work was driven by this belief that these like paranormal phenomena, you could actually study them scientifically.
Hmm.
He believed in things beyond the physical world, like consciousness and psychic abilities, and he saw his research as a way to explore these uncharted areas.
So he was like trying to build a bridge between science and the paranormal, using like, real experiments to investigate things that most scientists thought were impossible.
Exactly. Rhine's research at Duke University, although it was controversial, helped establish parapsychology as a field of study, and it challenged the traditional ideas of what we consider scientific.
It's amazing how all of these figures, even though they worked in such different fields, they all shared this, willingness to challenge boundaries and explore the mysteries of reality, like beyond just the material world.
It is. It reminds us that the search for knowledge shouldn't be limited by, strict categories or assumptions. These mystics at heart, they teach us that real discovery often happens in the unexplored places
Hmm.
where science and mysticism come together.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. We've gone from, Pythagoras' Celestial Symphony to Einstein's cosmic religion to the mind-blowing world of quantum mechanics. It's clear that there's this mystical current running through the history of scientific thought.
Definitely. And it like makes us rethink that supposed division between science and mysticism. Maybe they're not opposites, but more like complementary ways of exploring the universe and our place in it.
So, what does all this mean for the rest of us? We're not all Nobel Prize winners or famous philosophers. Can we learn something from these mystics at heart?
I think we can. These figures, they remind us how important curiosity is, that childlike sense of wonder that makes us question things, explore, and imagine. They teach us to be open to the unknown, to embrace those mysteries that are still beyond our current understanding.
Yeah, it's like that famous Einstein quote, "The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science." He really, he really nailed it there.
He did. And if these scientific giants who accomplished so much through, rational inquiry and experiments, if they embraced a sense of the mystical, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to dismiss it either, right? Maybe by cultivating that sense of wonder, that openness to the mysteries of the universe and ourselves, we might discover new insights and possibilities that we never even imagined.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the power of embracing, both the rational and the intuitive, the scientific and the mystical. Like they're two sides of the same coin, each one making the other richer. I'm curious. What are your final thoughts on this whole fascinating topic? What stands out to you the most?
What really strikes me is the courage these figures showed in embracing, both serious scientific inquiry and a deep sense of wonder. They weren't afraid of those big questions, those mysteries that we can't explain
Yeah.
with, just observation. And I think that's a really valuable lesson for all of us, no matter what our our background or job is.
Absolutely. It reminds us that a sense of awe and mystery, it can fuel both scientific discovery and personal growth. It's about, being open to the possibility that there's more to reality than what we see, that the universe is a lot stranger and more wonderful than we usually think.
Well said. And with that, I think we've come to the end of our deep dive.
This has been such an enlightening journey. It's amazing how, exploring the mystical side of these scientific giants has given us a new perspective on their work and even on the nature of science itself. So, as you go about your day, dear listener, think about this. If these great scientists embraced mystical ideas, how might a touch of mysticism help you understand the world and yourselves better?
Right. This deep dive has given us plenty to think about. What will you take away from this exploration of science and mysticism?
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those deep questions. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the mysteries all around us. It's really amazing how all these figures we've talked about, from Pythagoras to Einstein, they all seem to find inspiration in something beyond just, pure logic. It makes you wonder about intuition and that sense of wonder and what role they play in our own lives, even if we're not, scientific geniuses.
That's a really interesting thought. We tend to think of intuition as like this mystical thing, not very reliable. But maybe it's more important to, how we discover and understand things than we realize.
I'm curious about that. How would you even define intuition? Is it just like a gut feeling, or is there more to it?
It's hard to really define it exactly, but I think of it as a kind of knowing that comes from somewhere deeper than our conscious analytical minds. People often describe it as a flash of insight, a sudden understanding that seems to come out of nowhere.
So it's not really based on logic or reasoning. It's more like directly perceiving something beyond the surface.
Exactly. And even though we can't always explain where these intuitive insights come from, they could be super powerful. Think about creative breakthroughs like in art or music or even, science. Those often involve those moments of sudden inspiration, those leaps of intuition that you just can't explain logically.
It makes you think maybe we shouldn't just dismiss those intuitive flashes, Like maybe they're trying to tell us something important.
Right. And this is where the connection between uh, science and mysticism gets really interesting. Science, at its heart, is about exploring what we don't know, pushing
Right.
the boundaries of our understanding. And that often needs us to be okay with uncertainty, to trust those leaps of intuition that take us into uncharted territory.
So even the most, rigorous scientific inquiry, it still needs a little bit of faith, a bit of trust in the unknown.
I think so, yeah. Think
Yeah.
about the scientific method. It starts with observation, with seeing something, unexpected or that we can't explain. And that initial curiosity, that sense of wonder, it's often fueled by intuition.
It's like the scientist has a hunch. This intuitive feeling that there's something more to discover, and then they use, the tools of science to go after it.
Yeah, exactly. And as they're gathering data and testing their ideas, they might get more of those intuitive insights along the way.
Mhm.
And that might lead them to change direction or explore new paths. This is dynamic process, like a back and forth between the rational and the intuitive.
So it's not about picking sides,
Yeah.
science or mysticism. It's about seeing the value in both and letting them, inform and enrich each other.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's the big takeaway from this deep dive. These scientific giants, these mystics at heart, they remind us that the pursuit of knowledge, it has many sides. It takes both, really thorough analysis and a willingness to embrace the mysterious, the unknown, even what seems impossible.
It's like they're saying, hey, don't be afraid to trust your intuition, to follow those insights, even if they lead you beyond, what everyone thinks.
Yeah. Exactly. And who knows, maybe by embracing that sense of wonder, by really developing our intuition, we might uncover new discoveries, new possibilities, a deeper understanding of, the universe and ourselves.
This deep dive has been a real journey of discovery, hasn't it? It's made us question what we thought about science, about mysticism, about how we even know things.
It really has. As we wrap up this exploration, I want to encourage you, the listener, to think about the role of intuition and wonder in your own life. How could those things help you understand the world around you better?
We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and given you some thought-provoking questions to think about. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the mysteries all around us.